In this podcast episode, Joe Rogan sits down with Steve-O to discuss the roller coaster of Steve-O's career and personal life, touching on topics ranging from dealing with public criticism and mental health struggles to physical injuries and recovery. They dive deep into Steve-O's experiences in the entertainment and combat sports worlds, his thoughts on social media, spirituality, and reincarnation, and his plans with an animal sanctuary. The conversation also explores the complexity of identity, fame, and the evolving landscape of comedy and sports entertainment. Steve-O opens up about his intense experience with fame, particularly during the pandemic when his profile skyrocketed alongside the success of the Jackass movies. Despite this success, he reveals how the relentless internet criticism, especially when it felt justified, deeply affected him. He addresses the toxic dynamics of social media, highlighting how overwhelming the myriad negative voices can be and the danger of validating those criticisms internally. Joe Rogan advises Steve-O and all listeners to avoid reading comments altogether to preserve mental health. Steve-O admits to overreacting at times during live shows, particularly toward hecklers, and shares how he has consciously adjusted his approach over the past few years to maintain his composure. Steve-O shares his unexpected win on a MrBeast charity competition where 30 celebrities vied for $1 million for charity. He describes the event process and praises MrBeast's acumen in manipulating digital platforms and algorithms to create compelling content. The discussion also touches on the controversy surrounding MrBeast's collaboration with Zahi Hawass and how such affiliations can spark backlash even when the broader fan base remains loyal. Steve-O explains that much of the criticism directed at publicly successful figures is less about their actions and more about the resentment those actions spark, making it impossible to please everyone. Steve-O recounts numerous experiences with physical trauma from his stunt career and his involvement in combat sports. He candidly discusses repeated chokeouts, injuries sustained from wrestling matches, and concussions, including one particularly severe knockout during Jackass Forever when he was flung off a treadmill. The conversation delves into the dangers of prolonged exposure to head trauma, likening it to the struggles seen in NFL players suffering from long-term brain injuries. They acknowledge how high-profile athletes like Hulk Hogan have endured severe physical tolls from their careers. Steve-O describes undergoing surgeries, including meniscus repair, and relying on modern recovery methods like peptides. Joe Rogan emphasizes the importance of avoiding blows to the head as recovery becomes more difficult with age. The dialogue explores Steve-O's ongoing journey toward mental well-being and self-improvement. He discusses reconnecting with spirituality and faith and how these elements have helped him process criticism constructively. The pair converse about self-reflection and taking accountable criticism as an opportunity to grow rather than a source of despair. Steve-O shares the impact of conversations with figures like Mark Wahlberg on his spiritual outlook and his decision to stop promoting certain products, such as butt wipes, due to valid critiques. They also touch on the complexity of balancing authenticity, public image, and business ventures, with Steve-O reflecting on lessons learned about overpromotion and fan expectations. Steve-O talks about the hybrid nature of his work, blending stunt humor with multimedia comedy. He reflects on the challenges of releasing comedy specials behind paywalls and the trade-offs between monetization and audience reach. The conversation covers strategies used by other comedians like Andrew Schultz and Louis C.K. to manage content distribution and fan engagement. Steve-O reveals frustrations with digital platforms, clunky navigation, and algorithms that can spoil fight outcomes or stifle discovery. Joe and Steve-O discuss the unique culture of live comedy shows like Kill Tony, praising its unpredictability, meritocratic nature, and role as a launching pad for new talent. Steve-O candidly recounts a recent public relations crisis following a sarcastic and controversial comment made on his podcast regarding ICE and immigrants. His statement was taken out of context and caused a social media firestorm that left him feeling overwhelmed and misunderstood. Joe Rogan offers perspective on the dangers of sarcasm and nuance lost in digital soundbites, stressing the importance of not letting online negativity consume one's mental space. They emphasize the psychological impact of fame and widespread criticism, explaining how people often fixate on a few negative voices despite overwhelming support from fans. The discussion pivots to health and fitness, where Steve-O shares his routine involving yoga and strength training, highlighting the usage of fitness technologies like Whoop bands. They talk about how strength exercises, such as squats and deadlifts, help boost natural testosterone levels and overall well-being. Steve-O discloses his experimentation with testosterone therapy and peptides, but cites challenges in adherence due to frequent travel and lifestyle demands. Joe recommends practical tips for maintaining supplements' efficacy on the road and encourages longevity-focused health investments. Joe and Steve-O reminisce about the 1990s as the last era of cultural cohesion, when audiences consumed the same TV shows, music, and events simultaneously. They lament current media fragmentation, where countless streaming platforms and diverse content dilute communal experiences. Steve-O shares anecdotes about discovering music and cultural gems through friends, underscoring human connection's importance. They also touch on how digital media, live betting apps, and new broadcast formats influence sports viewership, comparing UFC's production values against boxing's challenges post-HBO's exit. An extended conversation dives into the complexities surrounding transgender rights, bathroom access, and societal responses. Steve-O openly discusses his personal experience interacting with transgender individuals and the emotional impact it had on him, deepening his compassion. However, he raises concerns about safety and the potential exploitation of inclusive policies by predators. The dialogue includes nuanced reflections on gender dysphoria, chromosome realities, and the practical challenges prisons and sports face in balancing rights and security. Both Joe and Steve-O advocate for kindness while recognizing biological distinctions and societal safety imperatives. Steve-O reveals a growing fascination with metaphysical topics, including reincarnation, near-death experiences, and the nature of consciousness. He discusses documented cases of children recounting past lives with verifiable historical accuracy and explores explanations such as genetic memory versus spiritual rebirth. The conversation broaches ideas from quantum physics perspectives, suggesting the brain as an antenna rather than a producer of consciousness. They reference life reviews reported by near-death experiencers, highlighting lessons about empathy, perspective, and the interconnectedness of all beings. Spiritual texts, mediums, and historical context inform their reflections on the universe's purpose as self-experience through separation. Toward the end, Steve-O shares his vision for a more grounded and fulfilling life through the Radical Ranch, his animal sanctuary in Tennessee. He describes his motivation to leave fire-prone California for a spacious rural property where he plans to rescue and care for a variety of animals, including dogs, cats, goats, and pigs. The sanctuary operates as a non-profit aimed at providing refuge and promoting compassion for animals. Steve-O expresses joy in this quieter endeavor that balances the chaos of his touring life and public career, expressing gratitude for the peace and healing it brings. Stories of his relationships with his dogs, especially golden retrievers like Wendy and Marshall, underscore themes of love, loyalty, and companionship. The episode closes with reflections on the journey of stand-up comedy, the challenge of starting or maintaining a career under public scrutiny, and the importance of authenticity. Steve-O acknowledges the difficulties for someone with prior fame trying to rebuild or evolve their comedic voice amid expectations. Joe praises shows like Kill Tony for nurturing undiscovered talent and providing a space free from favoritism. The two emphasize perseverance, continual self-assessment, and surrounding oneself with positive influences. They recognize the necessity to move beyond past trauma and negative self-talk, urging a balance of accountability and radical self-forgiveness as keys to sustaining a creative and meaningful life.